Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth-running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my last interview, and if you weren't able to join me and listen to the show, links can be found on my YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. And if you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. Now, let me give you a little bit of information on my guest today. Mary is an internationally recognized personal branding and online business specialist. Mary helps industry experts systematize, digitalize, and commercialize their knowledge, wisdom, and skills into a scalable and profitable online business and a brand so that they become an authority in their niche or industry. Mary has 22 plus years of experience building 7- and 8-figure businesses and building high-performance sales teams into brands in the IT sector, and 15 years delivering online solutions for large and small businesses. She's been featured in many publications and is regarded a thought leader in the digital sector. So, Mary, welcome to the show.
Hi, Candy. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on today. I'm excited to have this conversation. But before I ask you any questions on the topic, I'd love for you to tell me just a little bit more about yourself and how you began working with entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So my entrepreneurial journey started in 2005. So I've been an entrepreneur, if you will, or a business owner for the last 17 years. And, and I always talk about it, Candy, as the hero's journey, the ultimate hero's journey, because, being an entrepreneur is up and it's down all within, a 5-minute span. So the journey has been quite long. So, I feel like I'm a bit of a veteran, but I owned a software company in 2005. And in 2012, I walked away from that business after building it up from ground up, 7 figures per year on year, which I had for 7 years. But I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. To be quite frank, I was really burnt out. I was absolutely exhausted. I gave birth to my second child at that time, and I was like, I'm done. I took a 12-month sabbatical in 2012 and just basically took the year off to be mentored by some incredible mentors, one of which was a professor in philosophy from Oxford University, one in quantum physics, one in the emotional body. I really had to find myself. And through that 12-month mentoring, I realized that, my life and the things that I can do with ease and grace, I felt that I needed to express those on a day-to-day basis. And you could say that through that process of elimination, I recognized my gifts, my talents, my skill set, and I really recognized and honored my wisdom. And I decided to merge all the things that I can do with ease and grace, which was understanding personal branding, which I came face to face with in year 2000 in my corporate life in the tech sector, sales, which was part of my DNA, building digital solutions. Of course, I just spent 7 years, working with large and small businesses, creating digital solutions for them. And also personal development, which has always been a massive part of my life till this day. So I thought, okay, these are the things that I can do with ease and grace. What can I do with it? And then I recognized that I could solve a pretty big problem in the world. And that is to work with, in particularly today, industry experts who have already accumulated 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 hours in their area of specialization. And they want to merge that wisdom and convert that into a problem that they can solve in the world, build a brand around it, position themselves as an authority, and of course, build a coaching or a consulting business around it. So this is what I do today. This is why I call myself a personal branding and an online business specialist, because that's truly what I do. I help industry experts turn their knowledge, wisdom, and skills into a brand and a coaching or a consulting business.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that too, because it's so true. We do all of these things and we don't think about all of the expertise that we have that we could turn into training, teaching, things like that too. So I'm glad we're having this topic discussion because I'm sure other people are interested as well. So I wanted to ask then too, I know there's the term internal inventory that is accumulated knowledge and skills and things like that. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that term and help listeners understand that they have this as well.
Absolutely. It's a term that I created because I feel so passionate, Candy, about this notion that human beings, especially those in middle age, who are literally sitting on a gold mine of their accumulated knowledge, wisdom, and skill set, which is what I call their internal inventory. If we could look at our life experience that's made up of those three elements, that is a lot of inventory that we're sitting on. But it's not just inventory, it actually has a currency. And the way that I get people to immediately recognize this is that let's just make the assumption that you have accumulated 10,000 hours in your area of specialization. Let's say it's finance, for example. If I was to convert that 10,000 hours into an hourly rate of, say, $100, let's just say worst case scenario, $100, you can immediately see I'm sitting on a $1 million gold mine already. Mm-hmm. My inventory inside of me already has a 7-figure value. And I want people to see that and understand that, rather than getting to your 60s and 70s and looking back and just thinking, oh, that was just a mere memory. That's just what I did, when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. No, it's not what you did. It's the experience that you learned, that the knowledge that you learned that was experience, that became your wisdom, that today, quite frankly, can solve a major problem in the world. And one of the other reasons why I'm so passionate about this, Candy, is that I truly believe in my heart that the only way that we can solve complex problems in the world is through wisdom, period. Mm-hmm. It's not about reading 3 textbooks. It's not about reading 5 self-help books. It's not about buying course after course, etc. It truly is through wisdom only. So that's what I mean by internal inventory.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's important for people to understand too, that it is what you have in terms of your own skill and how long you've been doing it. Like you've mentioned, the 10,000 hours or something, because some entrepreneurs might think, well, I only started my business because I was laid off due to COVID and I've only been operating for 2 years. And so people may wonder like, well, what kind of expertise do you really have if you've only had your business for 2 years, right? But they may have been in corporate for 20 years doing the same thing, right? So they have tons of experience. They just are doing it in a different way.
Well, I think what happens, Candy, is that a lot of people that start a coaching business, they start a coaching business based on what they think that they want to do. We can't look at it like that. We have to actually be believable and trustable. So could you imagine me talking about being a weight loss or a nutrition coach when I've never ever done that? But I may love it and enjoy it because I may have experienced a massive weight loss just purely because I made a decision to become healthy. But that doesn't make me a coach in that area. It just means that I had an experience, I implemented something that worked for me. Is it going to work for everybody else? No, because when I'm working with people who have large inventory inside of them, what I'm looking at is, how do I make this person believable and trustable? How does this person get out on social media and support what it is that they are in terms of their title and in terms of the problem that they can solve, with a background that makes them believable and trustable. Now, I have a lot of clients who come from corporate. I've got one at the moment. She's in finance. She's really immersed in that space, quite masculine, has worked in a masculine power system for so long, but she also is exceptional at people management, networking. I mean, she's a Toastmasters, expert. I mean, there's all these layers that also fall into her internal inventory. So she doesn't want to position herself as a finance specialist. She couldn't think of anything worse. But what we could do is through her knowledge and wisdom in the finance sector, we were able to pull elements out of her experience and package that into her coaching business. And really, she's actually a magnetic networker. So, could you imagine? But it makes sense. She is believable and trustable with doing what she really wants to do, even though she didn't see that at the time. But then when we unpacked it and were able to package her up, she could see immediately, oh, wow, this is what I can do with ease and grace. I know how to do this. I know how to build systems, which is what she did in the finance industry. So you have to look at your internal inventory from a bird's eye view, if you will, unpack all of the elements that make up your expertise, and then look at that as a way of positioning yourself as a specialist with the inventory that can back you up. This is very important.
That's so true. So if someone then is saying, okay, I want to be out there, have people see me as an expert in my industry, how do you position yourself as that go-to person?
Well, the first thing is that we need to get our messaging right. And I'm going to start off by talking about personal branding and why this is important. Most people follow a rule of thumb that goes like this. I want to start a business. Let's say it's a coaching business. And what they'll do is they'll typically attend 400,000 free webinars and download all these freebies to try and figure out a way of moving forward to get that one client. The problem with that, even consulting, the problem with that is that it's a very reaction type of a business. It's like, if I get a client, then I will do this. If I get a client, everything will be okay. So most people start at lead generation. They start at the effect of the cause. So they haven't even actually figured out the cause. They haven't unpacked the cause. They haven't implemented the cause. They haven't self-realized the cause. They've gone straight to the effect. And this is why a lot of people in the coaching business, they decide to walk away and consulting and go back to their corporate life because they haven't followed a system, nor have they built a solid foundation. So let's go back to the cause. The cause starts with understanding your branding architecture. I cannot stress this enough, which is the foundation that you build before you build a house. We have to lay the foundation so it's solid. Everything that is built on top of that foundation sticks, and there's a structure and it's solid. So the personal branding part is about understanding all the attributes that make up you, the human, who is the business. People buy from human beings. They don't buy from a corporate logo. So now we have to understand, what does that brand that represents me actually look like? What are my values like? What do I stand for? What is my look and feel? And what we need to get very clear on all of the attributes that make up the brand. Why is that important? Because my messaging comes from there. If my messaging is not clear, how is it that I can then pull the right audience toward me? It's just not possible, because I need to get my language right. And the other thing, Candy, in the personal branding bit, when I talk about language, the language is actually the most critical. Understanding, as you mentioned before, internal inventory. It's a part of my branding language. That's my branding language. You don't hear people talking about internal inventory. Hey, how you going, John? Let's talk about your internal inventory. that language doesn't exist, between humans on a day-to-day basis. It's my language based on my branding. So we build a foundation, which is fantastic. In the foundation, we get a very clear understanding of who we are. We understand what I do. I now know who I can serve, and I'm very clear on what I can promise. Amazing. I also now have very clarity around my messaging, and I also, more importantly, have clarity on my target audience and where they are at in the buying cycle. Because how do I know who I'm targeting if I don't know where they're at in the buying cycle? So this all actually falls under the branding part. Then we move down to this next section, and that is understanding how to convert your solution into a system. And I can't stress this enough, because systems deliver outcomes. But here's the magic when we have systems thinking. When we think like a system and we build our business with a systems design approach, what does a system actually allow for? It has some very fundamental components. First of all, we have a goal, of course. Second of all, it allows for input. Then it allows for the output. But most importantly, and this is the missing piece for a lot of coaches and consultants, is that it provides a feedback loop. Now, when I get a feedback loop, that is data. It happened to me yesterday. I had an epiphany because I received my feedback loop and I was able to see immediately where my gaps were. I was able to then close those gaps and implement immediately. So I'm not scratching my head going, gosh, maybe I need to watch another webinar, buy another book, get another, opinion. No, I've got the information. I can figure it out for myself because data doesn't lie. So there's number two. Number three, we then move on to understanding how to create ecstatic brand experiences. So when people have a conversation with me, when people download anything on my website that's for free, I want to make sure that they get an ecstatic brand experience. So there's that bit as well. How do we build those assets so that every touch point is an experience, including my website? And number four is the lead generation. This is where your sales strategy lives. This is where your layered lead generation strategy also resides. And all of that, the lead generation, needs to wrap around what you did in the branding bit. Once all of those four components are all implemented, then we move into the centerpiece, which is what I call my feminine power system. And this is the embodiment of who I have just become. What I've just created, I now need to become that. And this is critical. I can't stress this enough, because you can do all the implementation until you're blue in the face. But if you don't become it, it will be very, very difficult to draw people towards you. So this would be the way that I would approach it.
So I know you talk about having a hybrid model for this too. So how do you scale a hybrid business?
A hybrid model is probably the best model for anyone that's in the coaching space, because what a hybrid model is that it's based on building a coaching business that, number one, is fully online. Number two, it's a group coaching scenario. So it's a done with you model where people are working with you in a group scenario. So you could call it a cohort, or you could call it whatever you like, but it's everyone logs on at the same time on the same day. And they can join at any time. And this is why it's a hybrid. There's no start and end date. Anyone can join at any time and start the journey where they're at. And this is where systems is very important. So when people work with me, they join my 12-month mastermind, which is a group coaching. This is the hybrid. And there is an entire online resource made up of modules and lessons that they follow. And twice a week, we have a group coaching where on Tuesdays, it's all about energetics and mindset and the embodiment work. And on Thursdays, it's all Q&A. So wherever you're at in the modules, you bring those questions and your working progress to the calls on Thursday. And this is where I can address questions and answers, look at the work, make changes, give my opinion, etc. And so this happens on Thursday. Now, what is so powerful about a hybrid model is that everyone's at a different phase in the program, the creation of their coaching business and their brand. And everyone learns off one another. And this is the power of this hybrid model. So there's no start and end date. People start when they want, because my system supports that. My hybrid system supports that model. And what it means is that you can have as many people on there at any given time, and it doesn't impact you and it doesn't impact the others as well.
I think that's important too, because like you said, with someone who maybe is just coming in, and if they can be on a call and somebody, here's a challenge they're facing or whatever that might be and offer input, versus maybe the person who's putting on the program is thinking, oh, I have to start, it's going to be a 6-month program. I'm going to start on January through June, and everyone starts at the same time, right? And trying to get everyone at that point. So I think what you touched on is maybe something unique that I haven't heard a lot about. Let people kind of join at any time, and they can help each other. Because I see so many that they're like, okay, the program is starting on this date, for this period of time. So thank you for sharing that insight.
Yes.
So if someone wants to be
You're welcome.
out there on this, digital platform, I mean, we know that things continue to change over time, and keeping up with everything. I mean, there's different platforms sometimes that start, and how do we know where we should even be? It takes a lot of our time and resources, so what would you say about this digital landscape and where these business owners maybe should be looking and focusing to help them have this hybrid model?
That's a great question, Candy, because, I speak to a lot of people, and I typically work with those type of people that have basically downloaded every freebie. They've bought every $29 course, and they're still at a false start. Now, and that's not because of this, that they need fixing. And it's not because there's something wrong with the individual, actually far from it. The thing with the digital landscape, and you perfectly articulated this, it changes like so drastically, so quickly. And unless you're a digital technical person like I am, it's part of my DNA, you're not going to understand the changes that occur. And not only that, but just things that do change and the impact that it does have on your business. It just could be an upgrade of something in the and if you're not a digital person and aware of those type of things that can happen in a cloud service, for example, that you might have purchased, you're not going to react. You're just going to say, oh, all you need to do is just do this, and then that'll fix the problem. Or just update your Google Chrome browser, and that should fix the problem. Like, these seem really, really basic things, but they're significant when you're, running a business. But looking at setting up a coaching business in the digital landscape, and also a digital coaching business, we have to start understanding this notion of systems thinking. Because I see so many people that they start coaching businesses and it's all very conversational. And here's the problem with that. There's too many of you. There's just too many of you doing the same thing. I don't want to coach and just have a conversation, Candy. I can't see an outcome just doing that. Even if people work with me just on a retainer, just 1 month and that's it, we still follow my frameworks. It's not just a conversation, because my program, for example, is 100% outcome driven. It's all outcomes, because that's what drives me. And that's what my clients paying for. They want outcomes. So if I can't provide outcomes, how do I differentiate myself from anyone else? I cannot. So when we have systems design thinking, it allows for that, because you've built your entire business on a systems approach. You have a digital platform and digital assets to fully support that experience with you. And also you're delivering an ecstatic brand experience at the same time. So when people come and work with me, they've already done all of that. I've done I'm going to coach you, in the traditional model, one-on-one. We'll get on a call and we'll just try and figure things out. They've all done that. They've all watched the 42,000 webinars. They've all followed the digital marketers and their blueprints. It doesn't work because until you actually understand that the future of coaching and the future of consulting is called transformative leadership, that's where we're heading. And if you don't have a system to support that, to elevate you above all of the noise, you're just going to be saturated and be like everybody else. And what we need to do is we need to rise above the label of a coach and a consultant. And we need to position ourselves as transformative leaders. And to support that, we need to have a very savvy digital platform that can do the heavy lifting for us. And that's the key here. It's the ability to create digital assets and a digital business that takes away massive human effort. It can do a lot of the heavy lifting, deliver a lot of the content for you, and your job as the coach and the consultant is to provide the wisdom. And that's really that. And they're two very different things that are extremely complementary.
Right. There's a term that you used a couple times, and I want to make sure that all the listeners understand what that is. I know what you're talking about, but just in case someone is listening isn't quite sure what you mean, can you explain digital assets?
Yes. Digital assets are things that you would build that can be downloaded online. So for example, if you have a sales funnel and you're providing something for free, that digital asset, it could be an ebook, it could be a micro course, it could be a masterclass, whatever. That's a digital asset. Now you could do it two ways. One is you can just provide a 10-minute nonsense masterclass that anyone can find on Google, or you can give information that will blow that person away. Right. And you have to give something from here, not from your head, from your heart, that will be of absolute value to that individual. We have to move people. People need to see us in action. This is the key. And digital assets that are built with that mindset provide an ecstatic brand experience. So if you go to my website, you go to LinkedIn, you go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, you download any of my lead magnets, you're going to get an experience. I'm going to move you. I'm going to challenge your paradigm. I'm going to wow you. Everything looks the same. So it really is understanding, going back to that branding bit, the importance of understanding your brand and how that filters through the digital assets that you create.
Perfect. Well, I know we are running out of time for what we have set aside for today's discussion. This has been great. There's so much information, but I want to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share with our listeners.
I do, Candy. I'd like to offer anyone that's thinking of going into coaching or consulting, or is in coaching and consulting and something is just not working for you. I offer a free 45-minute coaching session with me where I actually do a free gap analysis. And that is so powerful because I can actually show you exactly where your gaps are. And then at least you can walk away and you can focus on those areas that are holding you back.
And where would they find that?
You can go to just the URL, maryhendersoncoaching.com/apply, APPLY. So that's maryhendersoncoaching.com/apply.
Perfect. And any other way you would like our listeners to connect with you?
Please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm at Mary Henderson Coaching. Connect with me on Facebook at Mary Henderson Coaching. And you can join my private Facebook group exclusively for industry experts. And that's just search for Facebook groups, industry experts, and you'll be able to find that. Instagram, Mary Henderson Coaching. So I'm pretty much everywhere, but LinkedIn and Facebook, my personal page, are the best ways to connect with me.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mary, for being a guest on my show and sharing your expertise on this topic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Candy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you too.
And I also want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. I hope you found this topic interesting and that it answered some of your questions about turning your knowledge, wisdom, and skills into a hybrid model. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Mary at any of the links that she shared, or you could send us a message at media@abnc.com. abandp.com. I hope you can join me for my next interview. And please remember that you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. You can also find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And would you please share my show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? I'd really appreciate your support. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.